Hi, I'm Jennifer Lee, and my mentor is Alex Berg. I'm a first-year mentee, and I'm reading a piece about Korea. It's titled American. American. Chinese Americans are Americans too. This is what white people have always told me, as if they're so generous for letting me use the word American, as if it is inconceivable that I would want to be seen as anything other than American. I am neither Chinese nor American. I am diasporic Korean, and answer me this before you ask me whether I am North Korean or South Korean. What was so Korean about the Korean War other than that it ravaged Korean land and Korean lives? 2 weeks ago, on May 17th, 2014, 30,000 civilians gathered together at Cheonggye Gwangjang to commemorate the victims of the Sewol ferry sinking, to condemn the government's inept response to the disaster, and to demand the president's resignation. 113 civilians were arrested. Not a single Western news outlet covered this event. That evening, I sat before my computer, listening to the people's cries. 이게 나라입니까? 우리가 국민입니까? Sorry that was all I could understand. Sorry that I had spent the first 15 years of my life forgetting the language of my ancestors, realizing that if I did not learn it in time, the stories of my parents and their parents and their parents would be lost. My greatest fear is that one day I will fall in love with a white girl, and I will not know if I love her because she is white, or she loves me because I am exotic, or if we love each other because we have been taught that love is an answer. My greatest fear is that one day I will love a Korean girl, and I will not know if I love her, or if I'm just afraid of white boys. My greatest fear is that the only reason why I first learned to read was so I could slip into the skins of white girls and white boys and forget the weight of my own racial identity, because the language of imperialism now pours from my lips, and the language of imperialism now pours from my fingertips. And I would want to learn to decolonize my mind, but I am terrified that I am nothing but the struggle for liberation, that if you tore this anger and sadness from my chest, that I would be empty. Once I asked a friend if it is normal to cry every night, thinking of the centuries of hatred carved into our flesh, and she said, yes, I cry too, and no, you are not alone, and maybe this is why we have to stick together, to bear witness to the violence inflicted by the systems of power, privilege, and oppression in this world. I can count on one hand the number of things I know in this world, my Korean name, my English name, and that there are an infinite number of things I do not know in this world. I am 15 years old in American years, 16 in Korean. By American time, I was born in 1998. By Korean time, in 1999. I do not know where either of my parents were born. I do not know the names of my grandparents, and I do not know what I do not know, except I do know that my parents chose to cross an ocean for more power. I am here because they have, and I have, stepped on the backs of Native Americans, of African Americans, of Latin Americans, and maybe my greatest fear is that I too will grow up to be complicit in the subjugation of another generation of Americans, that I am too American to escape this legacy when I know more about the White House than I do about the Blue House, and I know Plato's Republic better than I know Confucius's Analects, and I know the story of the model minority better than I know the story of my parents. Sometimes I think I must love this country too much, that I would let it destroy me like this the same way I think my mother must love me too much, that she would say to me, you make me want to kill myself. I wonder who thought growing older meant growing up, because age is a weight that drags me back down into this earth. Halfway across this earth is Korea, a homeland that I dream of, a homeland whose language speaks of resistance to Japanese occupation, a homeland that I fear is nothing but a utopia. You as in no, topia as in place, and sometimes I wonder if maybe this is why we have to stick together, to bear witness to the dignity and grace with which an oppressed peoples will rise up to reclaim their voices, because the land does not remember as people do, and history books do not remember as people do, and the least we can do is try to remember. President Harry S. Truman once said, "I think one man is just as good as another, so long as he's honest and decent and not a nigger or a China man." Uncle Will says that the Lord made a white man from dust, a nigger from mud, then he threw up what was left, and it came down, a China man. I wonder if I am supposed to be grateful for how far we must have come, that white Americans would say to me, Chinese Americans are Americans too. Thank you.